on, everybody? Welcome back to another video, and in today's video we're going to be talking about School of Rock. I am incredibly excited to be talking about this movie. This is a movie I've been wanting to do since the beginning of my time here on the channel, and there's still so many movies that I want to talk about here on the channel, which excites me. Between the new movies that are coming out and various films from my past and things that I've never checked out before that I'm going to continue to review here on the channel, just being able to talk about, I really love that about movies. There's just an endless supply of things to talk about, and I'm incredibly excited to continue going back to previous films in my life that I really enjoy and being able to talk about it here on the channel. And so the reason I'm doing this is because my buddy Trav from his channel TravTries hit me up and said, "Hey man, have you done a review over on your channel for School of Rock yet?" And I go, "No, not yet." And he was like, "Dude, I would totally love to be able to hop on a review with you for it if you want to do that." And I was like, "Absolutely." So after we wrapped up our Planet of the Apes trilogy, that was the next plan. So here we are, we're going to talk about School of Rock. We're going to be hearing from Trav in just a little bit, but a big thanks to him for being here in this video. As usual, the link to his channel is down below in the description box. Go give him some love, let him know I sent you. And for now, let's get into my thoughts on School of Rock. Starring Jack Black, Sarah Silverman, Miranda Cosgrove, and many others, this movie centers on the character of Dewey Finn, played by Jack Black, a guy in his mid-30s who is just completely and utterly in love with rock and roll and has a pipe dream of becoming a rock star. And this is something in a movie that I can really heavily relate to. I saw this movie back when it first came out and have continually loved it throughout my entire life. It's one of my favorite comedies of all time and also one of my favorite rock and roll themed movies. And really, more than anything, I can really relate to the character of Dewey Finn. I've talked about it here on the channel before, but I'm sure there's plenty of you who don't know this about me. But when I came out of high school, I was in a rock band, I was in a metal pop punk band, a very weird combination. But I was 110% sold on the fact that that was going to be my career. I remember telling my teachers and various other people that I went to school with that that's what I was going to do. And I had this vision that within a year I was going to be freaking Steven Tyler, you know, an Aerosmith. I was the lead singer of this band. I started with music by playing the drums, and I was just 100% completely committed to the idea of making this band work. Now, we had plenty of really great years with great successes and being able to win great battle of the bands like that kind of happens in this movie. As well as being able to play with some touring bands. We recorded an album, and so there was plenty about that time that definitely, you know, leaned into me being able to kind of check off certain things that definitely made me feel successful in that realm. But we all know becoming a music artist and really being able to be successful is very, very hard. It is a pipe dream, and I'm no longer in that band, sadly. And I stopped being creative for a long time, and this YouTube channel was a huge reason that I kind of got back into being creative, because for a long time that part of me died. And so when I see this movie, I relate a lot to Dewey Finn, played by Jack Black. Now, maybe not to the same extent, but in this movie, he's a dude in his 30s. He's mooching off of his best friend who he lives with. They used to be in a band together. The best friend has gone on to become a substitute teacher, and now Dewey is just kind of living in his living room with literally a curtain as like his bedroom. He's kind of messy. He's a slob. He doesn't have a real job. He kind of just mooches off of his friend, doesn't have real income coming in, and he's just so driven on the path of making it with this band that he just kind of tells everybody anytime they question him that we're about to hit it big and there's some really great things coming for the band very soon. And that very much feels like something that I would have said back in the day. Anytime anybody questioned me or kind of felt like, hey, maybe you should get a job here, or you should do this, or you should do that, or maybe you should, you know, hold back on the music or have a backup plan, I was always like, we're about to make it. We just did this and just did this, just got this gig, which a lot of times we did. And that would kind of just continually drive me week after week after week to not ever think about getting a normal conventional job. And I miss those days. It was a great time. But when I look back on them, yeah, there was definitely a lot of what Dewey is in this film, which is kind of a loser, that I definitely was at the time. And so, yeah, right out of the gate, that's who our character is. And he ends up kind of getting an ultimatum from his roommate, who now has a new girlfriend, played by Sarah Silverman, pretty much being told, man, you got to get me a little bit of money to pay your portion of the rent, or I'm going to have to kick you out. So one day, while he's chilling there at the house, while he's trying to sell some of his guitars, they end up getting a phone call that's for his roommate saying that there's a substitute teacher position at a nearby private school that has a pretty decent paycheck. Well, he decides to pretend to be his best friend, his roommate, and go become this substitute teacher. And right out of the gate, there's definitely an element of having to suspend your disbelief, right? This whole movie is very much based around a premise that would never really happen, right? Some guy being able to just kind of come into a school and fake to be a substitute teacher, you know, and literally to the point where he tells them to change the name on the checks to his name, Dewey Finn, for tax purposes, I believe is what it is. And yeah, you know, there's definitely some things that would never happen in real life, some elements about the film that definitely ask you to suspend your disbelief. But once you get past that element, now you have Jack Black's character pretending to be this substitute teacher, and not long into the film, he recognizes that all of these kids, or a majority of these kids that are in this class, are all musically talented. He's been kicked out of his band, and he's just feeling like a loser, and he's just trying to find a way to make some money. So what he ends up doing not too long into the film is deciding to tell them that there's a school project coming up where they all have to kind of put together this rock group. And he tells them it's completely secret, that they have to start on this project early and that nobody can know about it. So the kids completely and utterly buy into it. And over the course of the film, he kind of unlocks the talent that these kids have that has kind of been suppressed by maybe their parents or the school in general. And this all leads up to a huge battle of the bands at the very end, where he plays with all these kids in this class as a band called the School of Rock. They play an original song that was written by one of the individuals in the class. And yeah, what I really love about this film is, first of all, I find it to be really funny. I'm a huge fan of Jack Black and his humor, especially at his earlier age of Jack Black. And so definitely love his humor in this film. I love the feel, the vibe, the performances all feel really real and tangible. And beyond the very silly premise that, again, asks you to suspend your disbelief, it also really has a lot of heart, a lot of charm, and really leans into some really touching moments with these kids. At the center of this story, beyond having this guy who, is doing this ridiculous thing by pretending to be a substitute teacher who has this pipe dream, who really kind of initially starts off this rock band thing to use the kids, over the course of the film, it opens his heart up. It changes maybe what his dream and his vision of what he can do with music is. It doesn't have to be being in a big rock band, it could be inspiring the younger generation. And on top of that, this film also 110% just celebrates rock and roll music. Everything from AC/DC to Led Zeppelin to so many other rock groups. It is just a celebration and love of rock and roll. Rock and roll is my favorite genre, metal, all that kind of stuff. I love it all so much. It's literally my favorite thing of all time. It's what I wanted to do for a living for many years, and it's something I still do on my free time. I'm consistently singing and keeping up with music of that genre. And so yeah, it's just a movie and a feel, a vibe, the music that I'm able to really connect to, and I thoroughly love that about this film. But beyond all that, it's also about kind of being able to unlock the skills, the talent inside of younger people that, maybe are being suppressed, or just in other people in general. I think we've all met somebody who is kind of being suppressed in some way, whether it's by themselves, whether it's by a parent, whether it's by friends, whether it's by work, by the world, who are just incredibly talented and they're just being suppressed in a certain way. And you can kind of inspire them sometimes and help kind of unlock this full potential. And I love that about this film is that, Dewey Finn first went into this whole substitute teacher thing to just kind of, make some money. And then he eventually continually is being selfish by starting this band thing with the class so that he can kind of win this battle of the bands thing and get recognition. But over the course of the film, he really starts to connect with the kids and they connect with him. And he, at the end of the film, ends up choosing to be a kind of role model for them and a music teacher. And the connection between him and the kids leading up to the big rock show at the very end of the film, I think is exciting, it's fun, it's heartfelt, it's charming, and it's a film I highly, highly enjoy. Now let's go ahead and hear what my buddy TravTries had to say about this movie, because I definitely want to hear what he has to say.
Hey, what's up guys, this is Trav and I am back again on Anthony's channel, and I'd like to thank Anthony once again for inviting me to do something. And this particular something is School of Rock. It just makes me happy. I'll just say right off the bat, it is Jack Black that really brings this movie home. His comedic sort of like demeanor, I guess is the word, is what really sells the... My cat just went crazy, and I think he exploded. I swear that if I found out that most of this movie was improv with what he said, I wouldn't be surprised at all. Jack Black, I have been a fan of forever. Probably one of my first introductions to him was the 2005 King Kong. For some people, it was School of Rock. This is how I feel about this movie. It's a rainy day. You might even be a little sick. You order a pizza, and you sit down, and you watch School of Rock on HBO Max. There are a few movies out there that have this category of a rainy Sunday afternoon, middle of the day, whatever. I've watched it feeling great, but I've also watched it sick in bed, because by the time you're done watching, you are going to feel just better. I remember when I first saw this, and I don't think that I knew Miranda Cosgrove was in it. And at this time, I'm pretty sure she was right in the beginning or right in the middle somewhere with Drake and Josh. I was already a fan of her because of Drake and Josh, but it was just such a nice surprise to see her in this. Her character of Summer fits so perfectly. That may not be how Miranda actually is, but like the straight A sort of like gonna be the future sort of preppy girl. I love that. And every kid in this movie that got the particular role that they're in fits so well. Whoever was responsible for the casting of the kids and stuff was absolutely brilliant. I don't think I've ever seen Sarah Silverman so mean. When I think of Sarah Silverman, I think of this role because of how mean she is. She plays the nagging girlfriend so well. Every person in this movie has full believability. Now, there are some moments in this movie that are a little bit like, would that actually happen in real life? For instance, the bus driver just believing Summer when she's like, yeah, we gotta go pick up Mr. S. I think in real life, that bus driver would have definitely went into the school and been like, hey, these kids are trying to get me to go somewhere. Is this allowed? But there's like these movies that were in this time have these like little things in them that like you just kind of go with because the tone and the sort of like comedic elements just kind of like take you on this ride that you really don't question a lot of things. I'm a sucker for a movie about a guy on sort of a musical journey, and that's what this is, you know, at the beginning with his band and everything. And going to this level of like, I want to do this with these kids so that I can make it. Therefore, you know, the growth of like the character progression and everything and the character progression of the kids along with him. It's just so good. So when I say feel good movie, that's kind of why. It just has a little bit of nostalgic for me, but at the same time, like I'm kind of just recently starting to like put on the movie more and more, I guess. Because before recently, I hadn't seen it in quite some time. Whoever came up with like the songs that they do and the songs that like the Jack Black, you know, kind of improving in the actual movie, like his character improvs a song he creates because the kids pressure him into like hey, what do you got, what's your music? So there's a little bit of that wannabe rock star that's not actually that good sort of element that like just makes me laugh. There's so many moments in this movie where the comedy just doesn't get old. I have a hangover. Does anybody know what that means? Yeah, it means you're drunk. No, it means I was drunk yesterday. I don't know, man, just so many memorable moments. One of those movies where by the time you get to the end conclusion and what happens with the end, you kind of feel it with the characters because it has such good character progression that whenever it does go into the music, you kind of feel the joy as if you're watching a real concert, sort of, but a concert where you know what it means to these characters that are on stage to be on this stage. I could talk about School of Rock all day, but you know what? I'm going to pass it back over to Anthony because it is his channel after all. Thank you again to Anthony, and you know what, guys? I'll be seeing you next time. Trav out. Peace out.
A big thanks to Trav for being here in this video. Loved hearing your thoughts, man. It looks like we're pretty much eye to eye on this one. This is a really great movie with a lot of really great moments. And you know, the sad part is I know people who don't like this movie because they don't like Jack Black. And I get it. His humor is not going to be for everybody, but I'm a huge fan of him, not only as an actor, but also as just a person. I love his YouTube channel, and he just kind of jives with my kind of humor personally. But I think even if you look past the humor element of this film, there is a really strong narrative with really, really great moments here that really tug on the heartstrings. And again, as a longtime rock and roll fan, this film celebrates that in such a beautiful and fun way. I love the way that Jack Black plays all of those elements in this film, and I never really get bored of his performance and the various kids in this film that I all feel are incredibly well casted, as you said. I think they did a really great job casting all the kids because they all have a different attitude that really very much fits the role that they have to play, and all the performances feel believable. You know what I mean? All the kids that kind of feel awkward are meant to feel awkward. The kids that are a little bit more bossy or a little bit more funny, they all really hit all those beats. I find the dialogue to be really, really good. And this is a movie I have very little negatives to say. Trav mentioned that, you know, it's kind of a movie to just kind of watch on any kind of day, and I have to agree. This is the perfect movie to kind of throw on a rainy day. You just have some pizza, maybe you have a cold, maybe you're just kind of sitting back and just relaxing. You don't really want to have to watch something that's super deep. this is that kind of movie. It's fun, it's a good time. I'm glad to hear that it's on HBO Max now. I currently own it. I've owned it for a long time, and this is just a movie that I have a great time with. If I had to think of some negatives, there are some characters that I feel could have used a little bit more development throughout the course of the film, but for the most part, this is a movie that knows what it is. It's not trying to be anything big or over the top. It very much just has a very great story with a lot of heart at the center of it, with great performances and a lot of really silly moments throughout, and again, a celebration of rock and roll in a really fun way that I don't think alienates anybody who maybe isn't a huge fan of rock and roll. I think you can watch this movie as somebody who doesn't really know too much about rock and roll and isn't really a huge rock and roll fan, and really appreciate the love and the passion given to rock and roll in this film just simply by the way that it's all portrayed. So yeah guys, that's gonna be my thoughts on School of Rock. Big thanks to Trav for being here in the video. You guys can find a link to his channel down below in the description box. Go give him some love, let him know I sent you. Make sure you guys leave a comment down below. Do you like this movie? Do you not like this movie? If you like this movie, who's maybe your favorite character in the film? Who of the kids is your favorite? Is there a moment that you don't like so much about this movie? Whatever it is, comment those thoughts down below. Hit that like button, subscribe for more videos, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you guys so much for watching and supporting the channel. Bye-bye.